Hey champ, what you got in the bowl?
Oh, this? Just some soil from the garden.
Okay, so why do you have garden soil in a kitchen bowl?
Oh, I mean, I just read that vitamin B12 actually comes from the bacteria in the soil, so, I mean, I was just gonna...
Son, I'm gonna only tell you this once. Do not eat that dirt. It's not dirt, it's soil, son. That's it. Yo, what is up? Welcome back to another week of How to Health, How to Fast edition. My name is Kevin. I run liftandbalance.com, where we take aim at all things health and do it in an odd, weird, interesting, and highly sarcastic manner. Today, we are diving into the rabbit hole, or rat hole, whatever you want to call it, to talk about the ins and outs and gotchas while implementing a fasting protocol on a plant-based diet. This is something that's near and dear to my heart, and I don't really talk about it a ton, but this is how I started out intermittent fasting many, many moons ago. I wonder how long many, many moons is. After making the shift to a plant-based diet about 4 years ago, I continued my quest to optimize longevity by implementing a time-restricted feeding protocol, which many people would call intermittent fasting, but it's really time-restricted feeding, even though I do both. Anyhow, it was only a few months after going fully plant-based that I started messing around with structured feeding windows. And well, a couple hundred YouTube videos later, here we are. So today, we're gonna talk about some things I wish I knew when I started my fasting journey to optimize cellular and metabolic health. And specifically, some lesser known gotchas when you do it in a plant-based way. We'll be talking about essential vitamins to add, how to best approach protein and dietary fiber, and a few other tips and tricks I've learned along the way. The thing we will not be covering in this video is how to start a fasting protocol. Quite frankly, because we just covered it in depth just a few weeks ago. So check it out. Lastly, before we get into it, one more thing. Most of these tips and tricks have relevance beyond the plant-based diet, into other ways and forms of eating. And I call these few topics out specifically because they're just more likely to get overlooked when following a plant-based lifestyle. So let's nourish up. First, if you are starting from scratch. This is for those people who have all of a sudden caught the health bug and are ambitious to go from 0 to insane mode in a matter of minutes, which is awesome, but simmer down now. Here's why. The most important thing when it comes to any health intervention is making it sustainable. Because if it's not something that you can implement into your everyday life and sustain, we're right back in the realm of fad diets, otherwise known as square one. And why is square one a term? This is like, these videos, 1, health information, 2, finding out the meaning of all these random terms. Anyway, I'm gonna start providing definitions because I wanna know, hopefully you wanna know. Sustainable change is the best change. And with that being said, let's look at some interesting statistics as it pertains to change. When a single change is introduced, the adoption rate is quite high, around 70%. But once you add a second change into the mix, it drops, and it drops drastically, all the way down to the mid-30s. I guess 2 is just too much to handle. I'll show myself the door. So if you are starting from scratch, I would approach it actually the opposite way I approached it, and start with the feeding window assessment and adjustment, aka the fasting side of things. In my eyes, you get the biggest bang for your buck here. It's the safer option on the benefits to sustainability matrix, a matrix that I just made up out of thin air. Maybe I'll hand draw something on a napkin and show you. as a fair amount of research, both animal and human, show that just by condensing your feeding windows without changing anything else can be a catalyst for some pretty substantial metabolic and cellular benefits. This right here allows you to sustainably ease into a fasting protocol without having to juggle another ball of dietary restriction in the air, which is huge in terms of success rate. Again, check out the aforementioned video to see how you could get started. Next, once you have the fasting window down, let's talk plants. First, I want to introduce you to the concept of adding the good before taking away the bad. This is something I learned firsthand and I've preached ever since. Because before you go on any health pilgrimage, you gotta pave the way to success.
Gentlemen, let's plow the road!
What do I mean? Start by adding the nourishing foods before you phase out the less than optimal, nutrient lacking, processed junk. Find your healthy food swaps that can take the place of the highly processed, highly addictive foods that we've become so accustomed to eating throughout the course of our life. For example, I found one of mine in a nice chocolate, organic, creamy smoothie bowl and swapped out that daily Butterfingers I used to pick up at the 7-Eleven across from my apartment every single day on the way home from work. I'm getting flashbacks. And wouldn't you know it, the cravings began to shift. I started craving the smoothie bowl over the Butterfingers. And before you know it, haven't craved or touched a Butterfingers in a couple of years. Not because I can't, because I don't want it. And we talk all about how our cravings can shift in this fun pack video up here. When you slowly add the good, your body will respond and begin to crave the good. The healthier you become, the more you crave health. And this is even more important when you talk about implementing a structured feeding window. And we're gonna talk about why right now. Things to keep in mind with protein and fiber intake. It is easier than you think to overlook key components of protein and fiber intake, especially when you're following a plant-based eating lifestyle. And this right here can lead you down a path of less than optimal daily performance and long-term success. Listen, when you opt into intermittent fasting, or TRF, to optimize cellular and metabolic health, you need to understand the hours of the day in which you consume energy is condensed, which is one of the main underlying mechanisms by which a lot of its longevity benefits work. And in the end, meaning that the hours that you feed are even more critical. So use them wisely and nourish your body. I'm not saying you can't have a snack. Have your snack, but make sure you also feed yourself and prioritize feeding yourself real food. Here are some overlooked things to consider. First, fiber. We talk about fiber and fasting in depth in this video here. And the benefits that it brings you and your fasting protocol cannot be overlooked. First, it will improve satiety, keeping you fuller longer while improving digestion and gut motility. Next, it will promote the prevalence and growth of good and beneficial species of gut bugs that will thus provide a vast array of positive benefits, including the secretion of key metabolites, the strengthening of the gut endothelial wall, and improving the integrity of the mucus layer that sits upon it. Oh, and might I add, adding fasting to the mix only hypes up the party, as we reviewed its potential power to reawaken dormant stem cells in the gut in this video here. Next, we go to protein. And I know, everyone always asks when a plant-based diet is brought up, what about the protein? But I want to shift your attention to portion size, specifically protein portion size. And here's why. Research has indicated that to turn on growth sensing pathways in the body, we need to surpass the leucine threshold. Leucine being an essential amino acid that triggers the activation of cellular growth. And a safe way to ensure its activation is by getting sufficient protein per meal. And that's why it's suggested to get around 35 to 40 grams of good quality protein when you sit down to eat. And I get it, it could be easier to break up that protein intake over a number of smaller servings throughout your feeding window on a plant-based diet. I get it because it happened to me. So that's why I want to bring awareness to this, especially if you're aiming to build muscle. It's something that I didn't know or even realize until a few years in. The good news is you have a couple of options. You can supplement. Obviously, I would always recommend a high quality, trusted company and source, or you could get it from a hearty serving of foods such as legumes, beans, lentils, soy, tofu, edamame, and all their friends. I found that it is the minor details like this that can make all the difference in your plant-based intermittent fasting protocol. Speaking of micro details, here's a few things to consider about your micros. Micronutrients. For the most part, if you are getting a good mix of real whole plant-based foods into your diet, you'll be covered quite well from a micronutrient standpoint. But 3 that need a little extra attention are vitamin D, vitamin K2, and everyone's favorite, vitamin B12. All of these are lacking in common plant foods, so they require a little extra effort or supplementation. And here's why. First, vitamin D. Now, we know we can synthesize this in-house from the sun, but due to the chronic indoor lifestyles that many of us live, along with other geographical and environmental conditions, it could be difficult at times. And because it's absolutely critical to our health, we don't want to mess around here. So supplementation may be a good idea. There are ways to get it from things such as sun-dried mushrooms, but it's definitely something that you want to get checked via blood work and keep your eye on. I've been low a couple of times. I hate supplementing, but this is one of the few exceptions that I'll make. Next, vitamin K2, which is critical for bone, joint, and circulatory system health. It plays a key role in reducing blood vessel calcification and improves cardiovascular health overall. And unlike vitamin K1, it is not easily found in plant foods, with the exception of natto, a Japanese fermented soy dish. It kind of looks like brains. I just got some. I convinced my whole family it's brains. I'll show you a picture. It's sticky like brains too. Not the best taste either, but I'm trying it out. If that doesn't work, supplementation, here I come. But this is a vitamin that I've overlooked for a long time. So again, it may be wise to supplement here. Also keep in mind, this is a fat-soluble vitamin, meaning it needs the presence of fat to maximize absorption. And lastly, the one everyone likes to talk about, right up there with protein, vitamin B12. B12 is important. It's critical for cellular health, and we cannot create it in-house. Interestingly, if you ever wondered how our ancestors, especially the ones that flourish on plant-based ways of eating, survived without B12 supplementation for hundreds of thousands of years, well, they got it from the living, vibrant soil, which covered all those plants that they ate. Now, when we fast forward to modern day, soil depletion due to modern agriculture, in combination with our over-cleanly ways, unfortunately makes it an uphill battle to get this essential vitamin from eating some mud. Although, I'm going to continue to try. So again, supplementation may be a good idea. I personally like to get mine from some nutritional yeast that I sprinkle in my plant-based, big nourishing bowl each and every day, but a pill form supplementation works too. And as always with supplementation, make sure you get it from a reliable quality company that follows good manufacturing practices. There's a certification, you're going to want to make sure it's stamped right on the label. And that's it, folks. That's it, folks, or that's all, folks? Where is Porky the Pig when I need him? Hopefully this brought some value to you on your journey. As always, let me know what tips, tricks, questions, or any random thoughts you have in the comments below. Now, if you'll excuse me, I got some leftover dirt on the stove. Good eating.